The old must give way to the new. The dawn of a new era is upon us. It was a time of great upheaval in Japan. The age of the samurai was coming to an end, and the winds of change were sweeping across the nation. Tradition clashed with modernity in the Boshin War, a civil conflict that would transform Japan from a feudal society into a modern imperial power. Samurai warriors, once the backbone of the nation, faced the might of an emperor determined to unite and modernize Japan. The seeds of conflict were sown in the mid-19th century when Japan, under the Tokugawa shogunate, remained a feudal society largely isolated from the outside world. However, the arrival of Commodore Matthew Perry's black ships in 1853 forced Japan to open its ports to foreign trade, leading to political turmoil. Western powers sought influence, and with them came new ideas, technology, and a desire to end the shogunate's rule. The shogunate, which had ruled Japan for over 250 years, was seen by many as a relic of the past. Meanwhile, Emperor Meiji, though young, represented the promise of a unified, modern Japan. The Boshin War was sparked when the Tokugawa shogun, Tokugawa Yoshinobu, refused to cede power to the emperor, and pro-imperial forces rallied to restore the emperor's authority. At its core, the Boshin War was a clash between those who sought to preserve the old feudal order and those who wanted to modernize Japan and create a centralized imperial government. On one side was Tokugawa Yoshinobu, the last shogun of Japan, a man who understood the need for reform, but ultimately found himself unable to relinquish power. His forces, though loyal, were fighting for a system that was crumbling under the weight of history. Opposing him was Emperor Meiji, guided by a powerful daimyo from the domains of Satsuma, Chū, and Tosa. These leaders, particularly Saigō Takamori from Satsuma and Kido Takayoshi from Chū, were instrumental in rallying the imperial forces. While Emperor Meiji was the figurehead of the pro-imperial faction, it was these regional leaders who shaped the strategy and vision for a new Japan. The war began in early 1868 when Yoshinobu, having reluctantly agreed to relinquish power, attempted a political maneuver to retain influence over the new government. However, this move backfired and hostilities erupted. The imperial forces, eager to consolidate power, launched an attack on Yoshinobu's forces. The Battle at Toba-Fushimi in January 1868 was the first major conflict, where the pro-imperial forces, though outnumbered, made use of modern weaponry imported from the West, such as rifles and cannons. Despite their traditional armor and weapons, the Tokugawa forces found themselves ill-prepared to face the firepower of the imperial army. The victory at Toba-Fushimi was decisive, forcing Yoshinobu to retreat to Edo, modern-day Tokyo, where he eventually surrendered the city without a fight. Following the fall of Edo, the war did not immediately end. Loyalist forces, particularly samurai who had sworn allegiance to the Tokugawa, fled north, determined to continue the fight. The war dragged on into the northern regions of Japan, where the Tokugawa loyalists established the Republic of Edo, centered in Hakodate, Hokkaido. This was the first and only time in Japanese history that a republic was declared. In the ensuing battles, including the naval battle of Miyako Bay and the siege of Hakodate, the imperial forces demonstrated their superiority with modern tactics and weaponry. The samurai, once the elite warrior class, were overwhelmed by the combination of new military technology and the strategic genius of the pro-imperial commanders. The Boshin War was as much a war of strategy as it was of firepower. The imperial forces, under the guidance of Saigō Takamori and other key commanders, realized that their strength lay in using modern firearms and a centralized command structure. The Tokugawa forces, clinging to the ways of the samurai honorable hand-to-hand combat, swords, and outdated tactics, could not match the efficiency of the modernized imperial army. A crucial aspect of the imperial strategy was the speed and mobility of their forces, which allowed them to take advantage of the disorganized and demoralized Tokugawa armies. At the same time, the use of Western military advisors, particularly from France, gave the imperial forces an edge in artillery and naval battles. The loyalist samurai, brave as they were, simply could not match the modern tactics. Imagine a battlefield where the clash of swords and the roar of cannons meet, where centuries of tradition are washed away in an instant by the pull of a trigger. The warriors of the past were facing a new world, one where valor alone would no longer win battles. Saigō Takamori, who had once been a traditionalist, understood the importance of modernizing the army. Though he sympathized with the samurai cause, he fought for a unified Japan, one that could stand against the pressures of the outside world. He knew that Japan could no longer be a land of isolated feudal lords if it hoped to survive in the age of imperialism. The final act of the Boshin War took place at the Battle of Hokodate, May 1869. The pro-imperial forces, now overwhelmingly superior, laid siege to the last stronghold of the Tokugawa loyalists. The defenders, made up largely of samurai who refused to surrender, fought bravely, but were ultimately defeated. With the fall of Hokodate, the Boshin War came to an end, marking the complete victory of the imperial forces. Tokugawa Yoshinobu, now stripped of power, was spared by Emperor Meiji, a gesture that would later prove essential in uniting the country. The war's conclusion ushered in the Meiji Restoration, a period of rapid modernization and transformation. The samurai class, which had once ruled Japan, was gradually disbanded. In their place, a new, conscripted army was formed, and the country underwent drastic political, social, and economic reforms that would turn it into a major global power by the early 20th century. The Boshin War was more than a mere conflict. It was the death knell of the samurai and the birth of a new, modern Japan. The emperor's victory marked the end of feudalism and the beginning of Japan's transformation into an industrialized empire. In just a few short decades, the nation would stand as one of the most formidable powers in the world. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this dive into the Boshin War and the transformation of Japan, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more captivating historical content. Your support helps us keep uncovering these epic stories.